Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and with me today, Greg Soulje. Welcome back, Greg.
Hello there, Sarah. How are you doing on this fine, lovely December 9th?
Oh, getting ready for some freezing rain here in
Uh,
Northern Illinois and some
yeah.
very cold temperatures. Yeah, really looking forward to this, Greg.
Yeah. Do I hear a hint of sarcasm in that
Yeah,
response?
you picked up well.
Yes, thank you, and rightfully so and deserved. But remember, I'm not pushing buttons making this stuff. Otherwise, it'd be sunny and warm and a high around 85. But we all are weather forecasters would be out of work. But yeah, lots of stuff going on for a change. It's not necessarily directed at our part of the world, but it is the Upper Midwest, and yeah, the cold weather is a coming.
And today we're going to start with adding a little bit, not to start off with, but first time we're doing this,
Yeah,
Argentina and Brazil
yeah,
updates, weather updates. So I'm excited
yeah.
to get into that as well. So
a,
Greg,
a,
yours.
a little wordy like I am on any broadcast venue. Same with typing stuff, but we'll see what transpires. We'll try to have updates for these. We'll do another update for you here on Friday, then try to get these focused on our Friday get-togethers here, those South American updates. And of course, on our live stream, which is coming up a week from this Wednesday on the
Yep.
17th of December. So in any event, here we go, off and running with cold weather and snow cover. It's eroded some over the southern parts of the Midwest. Boy, it is wide and expansive. Wouldn't be surprised out there in Mr. Pearson's part of the world, out there in Ankeny and Des Moines, Iowa, that some of those snow totals, at least what's been sitting on the ground, has been in excess of a foot, even almost a foot and a half. So that's a really contributing factor to some of these cold air intrusions. They intensify and kind of migrate towards these snow-covered grounds, and the snow has been expanding across the Canadian prairie as well. At least out in Des Moines, for example, it's been 4 inches or more of snow on the ground, and that's a pretty decent number. That's a healthy snowpack in many areas in the central and northern Corn Belt, and we will add to it, by the way, in the northern Corn Belt. We're going to be looking at anywhere between 8 and 10 and 12 inches of just the general snowpack, let alone we're going to add to it here with a bunch of winter storm watches, advisories, and warnings out of northern and eastern Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the western Great Lakes region. Meanwhile, the cold weather is abating and this is sort of a Jekyll and Hyde double-edged sword. Great for outdoor work and livestock operations, getting feed and supplies here and there back across central and western Nebraska, more so Kansas and Oklahoma. They'll be above 50, some spots above 60. Red River Valley, the south, above 70 degrees, but that winter wheat crop is not really all that greatly established, especially far north and far south, where there is a decent snowpack across the Dakotas, mind you, and there's the leading edge of the Arctic air on the move there. But that is widely an exposed crop. Orion Samuelson every year said we try to kill off the winter wheat crop each and every year. Yeah, we're going to try and do it here in the next few days as well, with cold air and probably some single-digit lows over bare ground areas all the way into probably at least northern Oklahoma. Pretty good swath of snow and rain as far south and east as it applied to the Corn Belt yesterday on Monday, as Louisville and Cincinnati. There's a pretty good blanket of snow in some of those equine areas, pasture lands of Kentucky this morning and into West Virginia. That precipitance abated. Just a little snow northward, by the way, into the lower Great Lakes region currently. But other than that, basically the cold air, the snowpack, and welcome moisture in one form or another in some of those drought-ridden areas of the Mid-Atlantic region. Recent rains have been upwards of 4 to 8 inches in some spots through Georgia, eastern and southern Mississippi, southern Carolinas as well, the combination of the recent storm. So some modest improvement to soil moisture levels and drought over that particular part of the country. Western states, it is a La Nina progressive and intensifying pattern, and it is a textbook look at it across the open waters of the Pacific into the Pacific Northwest. It's those systems that'll be running the periphery of this Arctic air through the Canadian prairie, the northern plains, northern and eastern Corn Belt. If you want to escape this stuff, desert Southwest, Southern California, down that way for maybe some early spring breakers, and that wide range of temperatures, 120 plus mile per hour jet stream wind systems going forward. Although we have a little break coming along here, going forward, the classic setup of a La Nina setup, and I digress back into the late 70s, and I'm dating myself here, when we had these just monster storms and cold wave outbreaks that came across the Midwest and the Corn Belt during the course of January, February, and part of March. So something to stay heads up for. Apologize for the small bullet points here. Dry weather, this story. Here's our Argentina and Brazil update for you. And it's a classic, typical setup as it applies to La Nina across South America. Arid and dry, some crop stress is showing up in parts of Argentina, in contrast to wetter conditions and areas from the La Pampa, San Luis, Cordoba area, Mendoza, where they've had some significant rainfall. So quite a range of rainfall and coverages across Argentina over the past week. Temperatures continue to range through the 90s and even some spots into the upper 90s to low 100s. Some of those extreme temperatures over some of the drier areas of Argentina. And the pattern really continues to be of a detriment to emerging crops, planting operations with these dry, dusty soils. Sunflowers, 94% in the ground. Cotton, corn, soybeans are about 30 to 51 to 39% planted. So we're making progress. Of course, you would do that in the drier areas of Argentina. And wheat is about 30% harvested. So in a classic Argentine setup here, wide-ranging dry versus moisture-laden, or at least welcome rains and timely rains across Argentina. Meanwhile, eastern Brazil, persistent rain. That's the systems that, remember, they track from east to west off the Atlantic, southern Atlantic inland, and eastern Brazil. Classic La Nina setup. Welcome rain. And you get into the Paraná region, Rio Grande do Sul, drier than they'd like to see at this point in the season down there. Temperatures generally into the low to mid 90s. For those folks, that's seasonal. And that's why there's a need for frequent rains down there and almost a compacted growing season and emergence season. Anyway, some upper 90s, Mato Grosso do Sul and parts of Mato Grosso itself. Again, some of those showers, as mentioned, that have been moving into the eastern areas have been of a benefit to some of the newly planted soils. The only real crop reports we have are from the government of Paraná, and the first corn crop fully planted, soybeans about 90% of completion. So a little better, I suspect, into Brazil versus anything you're trying to monitor through Argentina with regard to a rapidly strengthening La Nina. And those so far seem to be working out in classic textbook cases. We'll have an update on South America coming up on our Friday get-together. In any event, there's the visible, that's the actually infrared, what we call shortwave IR satellite picture, because you lose cloud cover versus snow cover on the ground. You can see the snow cover with areas, streams, and rivers when we put a visible picture up there. In any event, there's a plot of little pluses and areas of dashed lines. That is fog through the lower Mississippi Valley, fog and snow, and some freezing rain briefly moving through eastern Michigan, new snow and wind getting going across the Dakotas. And boy, I tell you, livestock managers, bin and barn operators hopefully are ready to go on what's going to turn out to be maybe not necessarily from an accumulation standpoint, but maybe a winter storm, perhaps local blizzard conditions evolving in the next 12 to 24 hours, generally across Bismarck, Mandan to the Red River Valley of the north, and then sliding east and southeast into parts of Minnesota. Areas of fog across the valleys of California, the next run of moisture into the Pacific Northwest. There it is. As we kind of put the weather map and the radar together, there was a quick little burst of snow. I had about a half an inch on top of my, 8 to 10 inches of snow in the backyard and front yard here in my particular part of northern Illinois near the Wisconsin line. A little quick snow shower and flu activity making its way through Michigan into parts of Ohio currently. You can see the moisture breaking out. That's actually rain and some freezing rain across North Dakota at the current time. That'll be expanding and transitioning over to snow as Arctic air begins to work back in. You can see the moisture into the Pacific Northwest. High pressure, quiet weather, some drying getting underway across the deep south and southeast. And trademark of La Nina, you move or you worsen dry, drought-ridden conditions in the southwest, including central and southern California. So they had some moisture early in the precip season. It is abating. Here is the Tuesday afternoon weather maps and charts. Quick little run of some snow for the northern and eastern Great Lakes region. Snow to freezing rain to sleet, back over to rain, and we'll go back in the other frozen direction on a big sky country as the moisture machine continues on in the Pacific Northwest. You can see kind of a wrapping around of lows across Minnesota, the eastern Dakotas. The web of pressure lines are getting going across the Corn Belt and the plains. And so I hate using, windy and warmer when you're only in the upper 20s and 30s because it doesn't feel that way. But temperatures moderating across the plains, or at least more so the Corn Belt locales ahead of this weather system. And look at the snows expanding tonight out of areas east of Bismarck, Arrowhead of Minnesota, down to the Twins, and perhaps as far south as the Kickapoo. Then tomorrow morning, the bottom begins to drop out. The other boot end or hoof drops and kicks us accordingly across the Dakotas, the western and northwestern Corn Belt, whatever you wake up before daybreak. Tomorrow, that's your high temperature across those same western and northwestern parts of the Corn Belt, northern plains. There will be a quick and sudden shift from rain, probably, I think, a significant freezing rain somewhere in northern Illinois, back over to snow. Winds will kick in from the west to northwest to 40 miles per hour, and that's accumulating snow for parts of eastern Wisconsin and Michigan. That junk will slide its way all the way down into the Ohio Valley. So a real shockaroo to the system when we go from the 20s and 30s to the 30s and 40s, and here comes the Arctic air later on this week. And that next system across the western Dakotas and east of the Divide is the next system that will ride the periphery of the Arctic air moving in for the end part of the week. So there's still some snow back in the forecast before the Arctic air settles on in. And you can see the eastern and southeastern flank of some of that as we try to overrun a brief surge of cold air with a little mild air up aloft, but inconsequential. Just the snow comes on down, the wind picks on up, and the temperatures are going to come on down as we move through the end part of the week. There's a slew of winter-related storm watches and warnings. The areas of pink and red through Minnesota, Wisconsin, those are winter storm warnings. Winter weather advisories as far south as northwest Illinois, eastern Iowa, and all the way down to just about the northern reaches of Missouri. There may be some issues regarding fire as well, with dried out vegetation, no snow on the ground, and temperatures surging onwards and upwards. And that is all high wind-related issues across the Dakotas, Montana, and Wyoming, gust 55 to 65 miles per hour. Throw the cold into it, and that's why livestock people, you got to be ready to go again. It is December, and I'm sure you certainly are. Significant moisture the next 48 hours. Pacific Northwest, water equivalency of 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. Simple math would put that 5 to 10 inches of snow north of the Twins, Arrowhead of Minnesota, east across northern and central Wisconsin, and into the upper lakes region. There's the snowpack from this morning here on this Tuesday the 9th, and it's eroding somewhat, about 2 to as much as 4 inches, parts of central Illinois, better than 4, some spots 8, some spots a foot into northern Iowa, and a pretty good blanket across the northern plains and upper Midwest, of which we will add to it substantially so for a slow go on the rural route and livestock operations through the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region in the next 12 to 18 hours. So heavy precip Pacific Northwest, 5 to maybe 10 inches, and that's relatively low, high snow level stuff. So significant rain could lead to some flooding potential and runoff in the Pacific Northwest. Those pockets of Pacific energy, this is just going to be something that plays out here. Look at going, we got a break early next week, and then it'll ramp up through mid to late December, Christmas, New Year's, and these systems that run the periphery of the Arctic air building to the south and east. And so those systems out of the Pacific Northwest typically drop into the northern or central plains, swing to the Ohio Valley. This one will track a little farther north, but nonetheless deliver the Arctic air. Travel disruptions, livestock issues, all adding up because of the snow, the cold, of which will send cold wave weather conditions down to 0 to 20 below. Actual air temperature on the dashboard, by the way, northern plains and upper Midwest. I'm in for a forecast low of 5 below as far north as Champaign, Danville, Illinois, with some of my radio stations down there over the weekend, assuming clear skies, light wind, and what's left of their snowpack and snow cover in that part of the country. High temps for the day today, pretty delightful back west of the Missouri. That's why we bring your concern forward here. 50s and 60s crashing by the wayside. Here comes that Arctic air by Friday. Daytime readings are at or below 0 near the Canadian border, and beginning at least to settle on south and eastward, with daytime temps over the course of early next week stuck in the single digits, teens and 20s. Some moderation trying to get going again back west of the Missouri River. So these real wide range fluctuations of temperatures, I'm sure keeping livestock operations on your toes. Probably some extra feed requirements, I suspect, will be needed. Overnight readings are manageable tomorrow morning. They are not very manageable come Sunday morning, down below 0 as far far south as, again, maybe parts of northern and central Illinois. And as at least single-digit lows continue on over the lower Great Lakes region, parts of the central Corn Belt, as late as Monday into Tuesday of next week. Stereo currents the next 5 days. You can see a pretty snappy trough, the U-shaped configuration moving through the plains and Midwest. That's over Friday and Saturday, off to the east Sunday to Monday. The winds up a lot become more zonal, and they are trying to shift back northward. So that's some trip off that we're going to bait the cold mid to late next week. Not anything back to normal, but the cold should begin to abate more so in the western and southwestern parts of the Corn Belt, central and southern plains. And kind of a misleading look to the upper charts here because things turn the other direction. I think somewhere around the 23rd of December. So we got to break mid-month here to get caught up on whatever you need to do. There's the surge of Arctic air building on southward between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's a little upper disturbance. So it'll bring maybe a 1 to 2 inch snow ahead of that Arctic air, that icy crystalline type snow. And then on the backside of the high between Monday and Tuesday, winds come around to the south and southeast, but that's another warm frontal to maybe freezing rains warm front across the plains, western and northwestern Corn Belt. So another dicey mixture of moisture in one form or another. And while temperatures come up, you still got dampness and hides and wind-related issues as well for wind chill consideration. So again, I hate using windy warmer in the sense of a wintertime forecast. There are the advisories, or at least the alerts, for high wind, heavy snow, blizzard conditions, Montana, across the Dakotas into the upper Great Lakes region. And the next 7 days, you can see the western shoreline of Michigan. Yeah, 1.5 foot of snow. Sure, why not? Arctic air, significant upslope slow for Montana, more moisture Pacific Northwest, a little trickle down of stuff into the lower Mississippi Valley Delta region, primarily rain. Under the drought monitor here, and there it is as of late last week, and still ongoing in through Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. It was from the Illinois State Water Survey. They came out with a tweet, or an X, whatever you call it these days. If there's not another 3/4 of an inch of water equivalent moisture into parts of at least Illinois, especially east central Illinois, Champaign County, will go down as the driest year on record in that particular part of the state. And that's kind of a testimony to what you see in the drought monitor there for parts of Indiana and Ohio. So don't be fooled, because it's wintertime. And yeah, the snow will ultimately help, but it's in a way of fieldwork progress come the springtime. Next 6 to 10 days, very fast flow in west-northwest to east-southeast, and that's just the right delivery mechanism. Arctic air across the Canadian prairie, warmth over the southwestern states. So you get this range of temperatures in the next 6 to 10 days. Some moderation of the cold in the upper Midwest out the next 2 weeks. Wouldn't be surprised that back builds back in. At least that's what's based on our forecast from this week in agribusiness. And things do try to quiet it down over parts of the Corn Belt, especially 2 weeks out. No moisture significance in the southwestern reaches of the country. Get used to that as we move on through this La Nina cycle. Our next updated live stream is a week from this Wednesday, the 17th. We'll update the winter outlook, La Nina, South America, and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for stopping by on a busier than it should be Tuesday.
It'll be a busy week.
Up the South American stuff, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, but it was good stuff. Good stuff. We appreciate it, because it's important we take a look and we keep an eye on that. And you're going to start putting that in every Friday forecast or
Friday,
thereabouts going forward.
Spend a little more time on that on Friday, and that's the game plan going forward here for the wintertime season.
Very good. All right, Greg, thank you. And we'll touch base with you a little later this week.
All right. Stay comfortable.
Bye-bye.